South Park's 7th season has some of their most iconic episodes from the early era, at least. Fat Button Pancake Head, Casa Bonita, All About Mormons, Christian Rock Hard, there are some real heavy hitters. But I think one episode in particular stands out as being uniquely iconic, primarily because it's beloved and remembered for two completely separate aspects that are seemingly equally iconic. South Park is Gay very much lived up to its title, having the entire town embrace gay culture and not be shy about it to very funny results. But equally remembered are a certain underground-dwelling crustaceous-humanoid race hellbent on manipulating the world through pop culture. You know the ones, we'll talk about them soon. Let's dive into South Park's classic 2003 episode, South Park is Gay. South Park is Gay was made pretty directly in response to the massive popularity of Queer Eye for the Straight Guy, which was in the midst of its first season at the time. If you're unfamiliar, it was a 2003 reality show that saw 5 gay dudes give a straight dude a full-on makeover. A complete revamping of hygiene, wardrobe, home decorating, general lifestyle, etc. You're likely more familiar with the more recent Netflix revamp. Matt and Trey found it particularly remarkable how far things had come for gay media since their own foray into the subject back in season 1 of South Park.
How amazing it was how far things had come, sort of, since like we first made Big Gay Al's Big Gay Boat Ride in the first season of South Park, and everyone was so sort of shocked that we would even have that openly gay character.
Big Gay Al's Big Gay Boat Ride was pretty ahead of its time, with the entire story being about Al helping Stan realize that there's nothing wrong with being gay, all the way back in 1997. This came only a few months after Ellen DeGeneres' sitcom aired her coming out story, The Puppy Episode, which was a huge deal at the time. When rumors spread that Ellen's coming out episode was on the horizon, there was major backlash. The studio received a bomb threat, writer Mark Driscoll received angry calls from Christians insisting he'll go to hell, and Laura Dern, who guest starred in the episode, claimed she didn't get work for a year and a half after playing a gay woman in the Puppy Episode, which is particularly insane given that she is Laura Dern. This was only 4 years removed from Jurassic Park. Truly, one of our greatest living actresses. Ellen also didn't come out until season 4 of her sitcom. Openly gay characters just were not a thing back then, but whether or not Al was gay was not ambiguous. His name was Big Gay Al. And even after Ellen's coming out episode, there were concerns over Big Gay Al's Big Gay Boat Ride.
I remember that even calling it Big Gay Al's Big Gay Boat Ride, TV Guide had a problem with that, and we had to call it Big Al's Boat Ride.
This was also only the 4th episode of South Park they ever made, so when it was being produced, the network didn't really have the foreknowledge of the way the show would be known to rock the boat culturally. But in the 6 years between Big Gay Al's Big Gay Boat Ride and season 7's South Park is Gay, the media landscape changed drastically.
It actually went to this extreme where gay was the new thing. Like it was like just, especially in comedy, you were just seeing it. There was like gay jokes in every single thing. So
pretty simply, the episode is about the boys fully embracing the Queer Eye influence. All of the boys, except for Kyle, have completely changed their style and are touting exaggerated quote-unquote gay inflections. As per usual, Kyle is the one who is a bit behind on the trends, something we also saw pretty thoroughly explored in Chinpokomon, which I recently covered. When Kyle shows up to the bus stop in his usual attire, the other three rip into him pretty hard.
You gotta get with the times, girlfriend. Yeah, that jacket is so September 10th.
This leads to a full-on Queer Eye style makeover montage where they get Kyle's fashion sense up to speed, and honestly, the stylish designs for the characters are pretty great. It's really funny stuff. And at the time, this whole trend where straight dudes embraced more queer sensibilities without actually being gay was dubbed metrosexuality.
Yeah, metrosexual means you're straight, but you appreciate the gay culture.
This leads to what I think is probably the funniest ongoing gag in the episode. Particularly around this time, gay was thrown around as one of the most common schoolyard insults. Absolutely one of the top, oft most uttered terms. But in this episode, with the kids embracing the Queer Eye influence, suddenly they want to be seen as gay.
When the chicks at school see how gay we are, they're gonna be all over us.
It's a very funny subversion of the norm, where all of the kids are calling each other not gay as an insult. And while Kyle goes along with it at first, he struggles to feel comfortable within the trend. And besides Kyle, the only other folks in town who seem to question the new fad are Garrison and Chef.
Last year, you children all trying to be black, now you're all trying to be gay.
Where Chinpokomon explored the way that Kyle had to force himself to care about Chinpokomon in order to spend any time with his friends, South Park is Gay goes a step further. In this one, when Kyle decides to reject the new trend and stick with what he's comfortable with, he doesn't just get chastised for it, he's actively bullied and beaten up. And really, even worse, to preserve their own social status, his friends fully turn their backs on him. It's really sad. This commentary isn't really about gay or queer culture as much as it is a commentary on on these kinds of trends in general throughout childhood, an extension of what was explored in Shin Pokemon. The difficult balance kids need to have, to know exactly what's cool and what isn't, and staying on top of it simply so they can stay in the good graces of their friends and classmates, to just be able to live. The episode also makes a point to highlight some of the prevalent hypocrisy as well. The attitude where someone is supportive of queer culture conceptually, but not so much practically when they're confronted by it.
I think it's great that gays are finally being so accepted.
Hi, Mom. Hi, Dad.
Ah! Kyle, what's happened to you?
Despite expressing that support, the moment Gerald sees what Kyle is up to, he panics and goes to tell all the other parents what's up, only to find that the other guys in town have all embraced the metro lifestyle. And it shows even adults aren't immune to this kind of groupthink, as Gerald himself fully embraces the metro thing immediately after seeing his boys have. So the primary focus of the episode is how pervasive gay culture had become at the time, which was still really only comparatively. It actually wasn't all that pervasive at the time, but it's basically a story about following trends and assimilating to fads, as explored through Kyle, and honestly, it's also largely about straight people appropriating gay culture, as explored through Garrison.
Whereas before they had their little place where they hung out, they had their part of town and they had their styles. Now it's all been co-opted by the mainstream, and there are some gay people that aren't super happy about that.
Yeah.
It's kind of funny.
So that's what we decided that would be a good point to have, Mr. Garrison make.
I do think this was a pretty smart angle to tackle this from. Garrison actually initially expresses excitement and optimism about the potential culture shift in South Park, and the major changes it could bring to his and Mr. Slave's lives.
All the children were suddenly acting like being gay was cool. I mean, maybe we're not the only gay couple in town anymore.
But of course, when he and Mr. Slave further interrogate this culture shift, it's a major letdown, realizing that literally none of these people are gay. They're basically just cosplaying a gay lifestyle.
No, thanks. I'm not like that.
Granted, immediately propositioning everyone at the bar is a very strong come-on in that Mr. Garrison fashion, but they were basically just fast-tracking the story so that Garrison and Mr. Slave would understand what's happening here. And the frustration is that over decades, gay culture grew and evolved in its own space to reach that place. It was a safe space for queer folks to feel comfortable in their own skin, surrounded by like-minded folks. But through this sort of cultural assimilation, where all of these straight folks are co-opting the aesthetics of queer culture without actually engaging with or acknowledging queer culture itself, they've removed the cultural markers that label those spaces as safe.
You're just one of us now. Yeah! One of you? We spent our whole lives trying not to be one of you. You can't do this to us.
Was this episode the only time Garrison ever went to Chef for advice? Obviously, Chef fits that sort of trope for the children, but it was funny to see Garrison go to him for advice with how to deal with his culture being appropriated.
Now every straight guy is acting gayer than me.
I always loved Chef's advice here, running down how he's always trying to stay ahead of the cultural appropriation by constantly evolving their terminology. How they had to keep changing the term in the house because white people couldn't stop using it every time they changed it.
Then in the hizzle, which we had to change to hizzle for zizzle, and now because white people say hizzle for zizzle, we have to say flippity floppity floo.
And much like the moment earlier in the episode with Gerald and Kyle, they make a point to show off Garrison's own hypocrisy here, listening to Chef for advice, but completely ignoring what he was actually saying about his own unique experience.
Come on, Mr. Slave, let's get back to our flippity floppity floop.
Oh no! Damn it, don't call it that!
Garrison is one of the most unhinged characters in TV history, and his solution in this one is, well, pretty unhinged. Garrison and Kyle's solution, actually, which is even weirder, they both have different problems that stem from the same thing, and their answer is both to take a train to New York and kill the Queer Eye guys with knives. Okay, so this is like exactly halfway through the episode, and it's where things take a turn. We'll maybe just ignore the fact that this train ride would take like 2 days, but it does feel like this is where the episode sort of becomes something else. And what it turns into is something fans are pretty divided on, because what they discover is that the Queer Eye guys aren't actually gay. They're not even human. Queer Eye for the Straight Guy is an operation undertaken by...
We are the crab people.
Matt and Trey have a lot of thoughts about their own story decision here.
But really, this episode is really famous for crab people, which is probably the worst idea that we've ever had put into action.
Personally, I always felt that crab people were the kind of absurdist stupidity I liked out of South Park. But on rewatch, I do understand how this kind of feels like they're just abandoning the story and commentary to veer off into a very silly, borderline unrelated direction. And there is a clear reason for this having happened, and it has everything to do with how they wrote it. In the episode commentary, Matt and Trey explain that sometimes, to keep their writing process moving and the the creative juices flowing, they'll pitch a dummy version of an aspect of the story to use as a placeholder while they continue fleshing out the rest of the plot. This is how they initially landed on Crab People.
Okay, dummy version, it's like crab people, and they're behind the whole thing, and meaning that it should be like it's some
it's some better version of
organization,
that.
It's some
Right.
political group, it's something that we can figure out and make sense later.
So, Crab People were literally just a stupid placeholder that they intended to replace with a more relevant organization that would of course actually tie into the story and themes more directly. Obviously I said intended to replace.
Trying to think of the smarter version, and then we're like, let's go with the dummy version.
I guess I had just never really realized that this was a divisive aspect of the show, but looking at it outside of my own experience from when I was younger, it does make a lot of sense. It is exceedingly stupid and shifts the direction of the episode drastically. And so, yeah, once the Crab People enter the picture, it gets a lot stupider. I think the one way this sorta ties into earlier parts of the episode that's pretty fun is the Crab People just once again giving Kyle, as well as Garrison and Mr. Slave, a Queer Eye style makeover, of course, this time turning them into Crab People. And I think literally everybody loves the Crab People song. In fact, this is what sort of keeps Matt and Trey in on the Crab People thing.
It's one of those things too that's just so dumb that it's pretty rad. And I do have to, I love the song. I love the Crab
Yeah,
People
I like
song.
the song.
They would still go on to rank South Park as Gay as one of their 53 worst episodes of the show years later, but even in that, they still claimed that they love the Crab People song. While the end of this episode makes me laugh a lot, I definitely think you can feel that they were floundering and trying to figure out how to bring it all together. Back in South Park, the embracing of gay culture does cause some very funny conflict amongst the guys.
I mean, you do have the fashion sense of a Japanese woman. Oh, please, girlfriend. You look like some kind of Little Orphan Annie nightmare.
And when the women in town start to get fed up with that behavior, rather than examining themselves, they call the women metrophobic and decide to have a metrosexual pride parade, all but completing the gay cultural appropriation. But the women then also go to New York to try and kill the Queer Eye guys, just like Garrison and Kyle did, which it is kind of funny that literally everyone's first instinct is to just go to New York and murder these dudes, but also maybe a sign of how sort of uninspired this resolution is. Uninspired, but funny.
I should have known they were crab people. They tried this before with the Jeffersons.
It's particularly funny that Crab People would sort of be the enduring aspect of this episode, even though they only made brief appearances across the entire franchise after this. South Park: The Stick of Truth's original trailer features tons of Crab People in this massive battle, and there was an entire area of the game that was cut, set in the Crab People caves in Kingdom, largely focusing on their war with the Underpants Gnomes. This would be limited to a small crab person cameo in Stick of Truth, and a brief subplot/fight where they replaced the D-Mobile employees in Fractured But Whole. Honestly, I'm really curious what you guys think of the Crab People. Let me know down in the comments if you think they're funnier than they are stupid or stupider than they are funny. The episode ends in pretty classic South Park fashion. Everyone moves on to the quote-unquote Latin fad, and they sort of just blow right past the emotional fallout from the boys turning their back on Kyle. He calls them all out for straight up abandoning him, and of course, with things back to normal, they insult him exactly as you'd expect in 2003.
Oh, Jesus, Kyle, don't be such a whiny little gay wad. Come play catch with us.
This was such an interesting episode to revisit. I think I appreciated the social commentary more than ever, but while I still love the Crab People conceptually, I think I appreciated them within the episode less than ever. But I'm still not sure I would ever want to live in the world where they didn't use Crab People in this wildly derailing way for this story. It really is just kind of so perfectly stupid that I can't help but love it. I think this is mostly because, I'm not sure if you realize this, they taste like crab, but talk like people. That's good stuff.
I stay mellow watching Johnny Two Cellos. He talks cartoons, he's a really cool fellow. He keeps you posted on adult cartoons. If that's what you're into, then grab a spoon and a very big bowl of your favorite cereal. Feels like Saturday morning cartoon material. Johnny Two Cellos, watch him on YouTube. Now enjoy this groove and bust a move.